Hi, friends. Welcome back to Aging Care Solutions. I'm Beth, your aging care coach, offering experienced professional guidance, real life caregiving experience, and a lot of life lessons as a semi retired person on the aging journey right along with you. So, welcome back. And if you didn't catch my last video, I want to say Happy New Year. This month is almost over, but we are still right in the beginning of a brand new year. And I don't know about you, but for me, I always feel like a sense of not so much of a do over, but just like, okay, it is a new year. It is like if whatever challenges you had in the past year, putting them behind you and looking forward with, a positive mental attitude. It can be challenging, especially if you're aging and you're older and or you're worried about things like if your health isn't all that great or if your finances aren't good, if your relationships aren't good. These are all things that I touch on in my videos because I really feel like it's an all-encompassing thing to live intentionally. And a lot of us just go through the motions. I know I was guilty of it for many years, probably because I was everybody's caregiver. I was looking after a family member for a decade and being her advocate. And of course, at the same time, as my mother's diagnosis for dementia, I was also a new mom to a set of twins who are now almost 20. And I have to look at things like in the scope of a 70, 80, or 90 year journey here on Earth, at what I call Earth School, that we do learn these lessons, that we do try to figure out like how can we best take care of ourselves and help others, whether it's sharing information. So that's really why I'm here. And if this title brought you in, and you're like most people who are out there, you are cost sensitive. What I'm going to talk about today is the pros and cons of hiring a private caregiver. Caregivers come in all different skill levels and from all different resources. It could be a neighbor who has used somebody, it could be through an agency that you've used in the past, it could be someone who was referred to you that had a very good luck with them. But what I'm going to talk about today is what are the top 10 things that we need to know when we are searching for a caregiver for an elderly family member, a loved one, or even for ourselves when the time comes. But for families, trying to balance the cost of care and finding peace of mind can be a real challenge. I know for me, I was working full time and I had kids that were in kindergarten. And then I had to move my parent. I had to move my mother, hundreds and hundreds of miles from where she had grown up and the only place that she'd ever lived, and bring her to a new space in the state of Maryland where I was living at that time. And to me, I had to put a lot of thought into it, and I wanted to put a lot of thought into it. One of the things that I also had to do was I had to hire a private person to come in and check on my mother. She was unaware that her memory was bad. So for that last year that she lived by herself, I hired someone, and that person was referred to me by my mother's primary care doctor. He said one of his nurses had retired and she wasn't doing medical care because she didn't want to go through all the hoops to get the licensure for that, but she was licensed. She did carry an active license. All I wanted her to do was check and see, is my mother taking her medications? How does she look? Does she look like she's still caring for herself? Is she safety oriented? Is she asking any questions? My mother kept forgetting who this woman was, and she would call me and say, Why is this lady coming to visit me? Who is she, and what does she want?" So there's that to contend with. But today I want to talk about, as I said, I'll get off topic because I'm going to talk about how my life related to most of these topics because I lived it. I lived it right along with you guys. And it's not easy. Every single family's journey, the care journey, is very different. Some people do not have anybody. They may have one nephew that lives in California and they live, on the other coast. So that person's going to have to manage remotely. But there's going to come a time when either you're going to need caregiving or you are going to consider hiring or needing the help for a loved one. It could be a sibling that needs help, that's not well, or that had a surgery that needs somebody. And many times, if you go into a surgical center or you've had a surgery or you go into a hospital, they'll refer agencies, they'll give you a list, and you can decide, can I afford this? Will my health insurance or whatever savings I have cover this? So, what we're going to talk about, I wanted to talk about some of the top 10 things when you're searching for a caregiver that are really important, and then we'll talk about the pros and the cons at the end. But clearly defining what the needs are, sometimes it's just a realistic list of what is their mobility help that they might need. Does my loved one need help with bathing and dressing? Do they have dementia and are still remaining in their home right now? But they need some specialized type of care, maybe just someone there to check on them for safety purposes and prepare meals so they don't have to cook. Maybe they need medication reminders. Sometimes people need ear drops, eye drops. Sometimes they only need a medication, once a month. You just don't really know. It's sort of all over the board. That was my experience with it. And then there's others that just need companionship. Maybe their eyesight has failed and they really can't drive and they really could use a friend. They could use somebody to come in and check on them. And, I'm not going to get emotional about it, but I remember going into people's homes. And if you're not familiar with who I am, I was in this industry. I was in private duty nursing, also home health services, which are services billed under insurance, which included a component for hospice care. So I went into many homes, and the one thing that I noticed was how lonely people get. A lot of times people just wanted to talk, and I'm sort of becoming like that because I don't see a lot of people, and of course I don't have a lot of friends where I just moved to. I do have family here, but everybody's working and whatnot. But so when I do get a chance to talk to somebody, I talk. I'm a talker. I was a talker since the time I was just a little teeny kid. But I noticed that about people that I used to visit. They were so happy to see me. Sometimes I would, before I even got there, I would say, I'm just calling to remind you about our 11 o'clock appointment. Can I pick up anything? Is there anything that you need? Do you need anything from the store? And they were like, what? Nobody asked me that before. And sometimes I would just bring stuff. I would stop and get coffee, or I would bring, I don't know, a magazine, or especially if they were in rehab or a hospital, I would never go empty handed. I would always bring something. I don't care if it was like a deck of cards or a magazine or a notepad with a pen, because then as they're thinking of things they want to do when they get out, they could start a little list. Other people might clearly define assistance as needing medical support, right? So everyone's need is going to be different. Number 2 is understanding the difference between a caregiver and a medical professional. This is becoming such a gray area for a lot of families. They think if they hire a CNA, a certified nursing assistant, that person can come in and is authorized to dispense medications, is able to do wound care, is able to do things that are considered clinical, and they have to have a special license for that, and they don't. So a CNA is allowed they can put the medication down in a little cup or on a napkin, but they cannot actually hand that to the client. And someone else, I would consider having somebody, and there are people who do it, who can they can look at their medications and make sure that it's all put into the little daily minders. But I would suggest that you have somebody, especially if someone's medications are up and down. Maybe they had a condition that has now cleared itself, like blood pressure, medication might be being, reworked for somebody. So understanding the difference is that a caregiver, especially someone that's non-medical, can do things like prepare meals, help with hydration. They can do personal care, helping someone to and from the toilet. They can help them shower. They can do, they do have CPR training, choke training, lift and transfer training. But again, there are things that they cannot do legally. But between nurse visits, and if there's a trainable caregiver and a nurse is coming in to provide skilled care, they'll train a family member, and the family member agrees to it. Then that's really what happens, especially if someone has wounds that need care every day, or there's something that has to be checked on every single day. Those nurses that are coming in under the health insurance or therapists can train family members or caregivers to help support someone who's caring and recovering at home. Always, number three, conduct a thorough background check. Criminal history, driving record, certifications. Always check and see, are these up to date? Are they current? And also, I would consider this a non-negotiable, but I would check references. I would want at least two families that person has worked for. We used to find in the agency that I worked for is that if somebody left and they went independent, many times it was because they had 2 or 3 infractions with the agency that they were with. So they sort of started their own business, but they weren't bonded and insured, and they were the one point of failure, right? You would only have that one caregiver, and if she didn't have gas money or couldn't get the bus that day or had a sick child, they were not going to show up. So, and we'll go into that in the pros and cons. But conducting a thorough history and background check is, I think, it's going to cost you $35 to do it, but it's worth every single penny. Verifying in their experience and any specific conditions that you're trying to find the support for. So if someone has Alzheimer's or dementia, they are a wander risk, a flight risk, just any type of self-harm, they don't really have safety awareness, you're going to want to find someone that has the patience level and that can help keep that person busy, doing different things, taking walks, helping them fold laundry, doing the things that they're still able to do and keeping their mind busy, because many times there's a high agitation level with that. Also, if someone has had a stroke and is recovering, Parkinson's, or if they're diabetic and they have specialized care needs, you're going to want to find somebody that knows how to do that. And you're also, if you can set aside time when you are training and searching for a caregiver, I would be there the first week or so, if you're able to do so, training and or showing them where things are located, how this person likes their meals prepared, what they expect as far as hydration levels. Number 5, you're going to want to assess their personality and whether or not it's a good fit, not just their skills. Sometimes there's people who are just sort of matter of fact. I almost call it that compassion fatigue, where they've worked with so many people, they really don't have a patience level that's required. And also their communication style, you're going to want to have somebody who can give you updates, whether it's a daily text or a weekly text, even helping their loved one use technology so that you can communicate with them, you can see them every week. Also making sure that they have respect for the home and your loved one or yourself, and that they have and carry empathy so that they understand, maybe you lost a spouse in the past year and you are depressed or you are sad and your health is not that great. So there's just every little thing can kind of build up and add up. And I know there's a burnout level, especially for family, because I was burned out. I know exactly what it feels like to put myself on the back burner for decades, and have my health and my mental health affected greatly by only and always caring for everyone else. So hiring somebody from the outside, it was a blessing to me when I was able to move my mother close by, and I was able to we were able to come off of a wait list after a year and transition her to a community, because the quality of her life improved greatly and the quality of my life improved greatly. I was so tapped out from looking after her because she was so mobile, and I loved having her. It was the early stages of her illness, but it was rough. When I went back to work and my kids went to school part-time, it was needed. It was much needed. So these are just some of the things. And also, like, maybe number 6, discussing expectations of what you're looking for when searching for a caregiver. What are the duties that you want them to perform? I used to sit there, and when I was talking to people, I was like, would it be helpful if someone did your laundry and linens? And they're like, no, I can go up and down the stairs to the basement. And I said, you're really, you are more frail. You don't have any, you don't have a life alert or any type of a device if in the event that you were to slip and fall. in the basement. So why not have somebody else do it? Why not? If you're paying them to come here, why not have them do some light housekeeping? Get the bathrooms cleaned up, load and unload the dishwasher, make sure that your medications are filled, prepare a couple meals. I mean, I would really paint a picture for them about the duties, the schedule, the different things, the way that you want your house to be kept, the days that the trash and recycles go out, any emergency procedures, things like that, that I think if they're clearly outlined and they're put up as a daily schedule, can be very, very helpful, not only to that client, but also to families who are continuing to work, have children in school or children in college, and we're in the home stretch of our 50s and 60s when it's the most stressful at work because you have probably a higher level job that's going to require a lot more of your brain power and your physical demand. And caring for a family member is one more added duty that can be very challenging. I already know because I did it myself. I see my ex-husband going through it right now, the challenges of all of it. And then you feel bad that you're not seeing that person on the regular, but it is tough. It's tricky. Number 7, planning for caregiver burnout. If you're a caregiver and you've been investing a number of years just helping someone else, it can get, as the care level becomes increased and the downslide in someone's health, meaning that there's going to be more hospital visits, then rehab visits, then back to the assisted living or back to the home. It is very time consuming and it can be, real challenging. So that can happen to a caregiver as well. So you can plan for it. You might try to have 2 people, one person that works during the week and one that works on the weekend, so that there is maybe a backup person, or even if family members are the backup. But even an excellent caregiver is going to need time off. They're going to need they want to take their family on a vacation. They want to go away. They want Christmas Day off. So having a backup plan before you really need one is really advisable. And if that means hiring a private caregiver during the week and then you have an agency helping you on the weekend, there's no rule that says that you can't. So there's always a solution with different things. So number 8 is watching for red flags. If you hire someone and they are frequently late, they have poor communication, they are resisting any feedback, maybe they have a lack of transparency, they need to be addressed early on. You don't want to wait and say, well, she's busy, she has this and that. The fact of the matter is many caregivers are working for multiple families, multiple agencies, and it can be a one point of failure. So you're going to want to consider that if you're hiring one person to do all of your care needs. The beauty of having an agency is that they have multiple people that work for them. And in fact, many times in these offices, there are CNAs, med techs, RNs who can be dispatched same day to see a client. If it's a last minute discharge and someone's going home, a lot of times these cases can be set up rather quickly. Whereas with a private caregiver, you still have to do your background check. You still have to do the reference investigations and find out how long did she work for you? How often did she work? What did you think of her as a person? Did you feel like she was trusting someone that was had good values and was a trustworthy person? So there's different things that you're going to have to look for, and watching for those red flags is going to be on you. Number 9 is trusting your loved one's input. So if your parent is sensing some discomfort for whatever reason, they feel that person is rushing them or too short with them or rough with them, I would still implement things like the Philips Lifeline, or the Apple watch or the pendant, anything that can help when your loved one is by themselves, because somebody may not be with them all the time. And their voice matters. It is their home. It is their care schedule. It is their life. They are still living their life. And, a good caregiver can expand someone's life in the later years. They can get them out to social events. They can make sure that they love to go shopping where they like to shop and get them there and back. There's things that they can still do. Get them to the salon and get their hair done, or if they want to go play cards with friends, or they want to meet up with their army buddies. There's all kinds of things that can be done. And a good caregiver is someone that, that you can trust to do that. And then reevaluating. Number 10 is reevaluating regularly as their needs change. And we all know that all of our needs are going to change over time. It's just the natural progression of aging. So scheduling periodic check-ins and adjusting the care level is, I think it's recommended, and it only makes sense. And any good caregiver is going to be open to knowing that, okay, yes, we've gone from a cane to a rollator to a walker, or any type of assisted device. Now we've had a diagnosis of macular degeneration or cataracts, and we're having surgery. So, our vision is low. So they know, we know, and so do caregivers, that having a reassessment and a reevaluation of the care needs is going to be an ongoing thing. And some things that might be often overlooked is that families may feel that they should be able to do it all. I know I did, but also remember after my mother was settled and I would call and they said, "Oh, she's doing this. She can't come to the phone," or I would call and she'd say, "I'm just on my way out." I knew that my mother's world had opened up to her by moving her to assisted living that had dementia care. Because there was nobody at home, I wasn't able to look after her at that point. But hiring help is not a failure. It's like, it's responsible care in the eyes of, I think, anybody who has had to care for a loved one. If they're not getting social engagement, they're alone all of the time, they're only being kept company by a television set, probably on Fox News, blaring really loud. It's time for them to have engagement, social engagement with people who love them and want to celebrate them. I did a video early last year, about adult day programs, and I cannot talk enough about how great they are. And if you haven't considered it, and you want them to have someone pull up in the driveway and pick them up and take them to an all-day activity, then see if you qualify for adult day programs. And even if it's out of pocket, it's only like $80 a day. They feed them 2 meals. They can manage medication throughout the day. There's so many pluses to it. So put that guilt aside. It is a loving act to find someone the type of care that they need. And sometimes there feels like, for seniors anyway, they grieve the loss of their independence because now they need help. I kind of feel like it's not as hard maybe for women as it is for men to know that they shouldn't be driving anymore. But even for women, knowing, that they're a fall risk, or that they do need someone to help them because their legs aren't as strong as they were, and maybe they are a fall risk and they need help getting dressed. So there is that loss of independence that can bring this level of grief for seniors. But patience and inclusion, and also including them in the decision-making process, is important, because then they feel like they're contributing to it. Of course, it's kind of mixed with anxiety because they're happy that they have someone there to help them, but they wish that they could do it themselves. So, and then another thing that could be overlooked is there is an adjustment period. We tell everybody, just give it some time, give it 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. Just so that you realize, hey, you know what? I guess I really do like this person. I look forward to them coming. I know that Emily is coming every Wednesday and I get to go out that day and we're going to have fun that day. I don't know. I think if you find a good caregiver, it's worth their weight. It's worth their weight in gold, because they can really open up a lot for our loved ones and for ourselves. So some of the pros and cons. I don't know how long this video is running so far, but let me check it out so I could see. It looks like I don't even know. I'm just going to keep going. Like I said, I'm a talker. But anyway, these pros and cons. First of all, the pros is that you would get personalized care, right? It would be more one-on-one care. It's not like they're on a floor in a unit overseeing 12 to 15 residents or 12 to 15 rehabbed patients that are there. You are going to be the only person that caregiver, your loved one, you or your loved one, will be getting private caregiving care, which is focused solely on what your loved one needs, right? Allowing for the care to be tailored to their routine, their personality, and their changing needs. I ran into my share of people who were really unhappy, grumpy, grumpy, grumpy. And you know what? When you're in a lot of pain, you don't have anybody really there to support you. For family members, everybody's either scattered or gone. Um, there, a level of sadness and crank just can move in. I, I don't know. I always seem to find a way to try to get people to laugh or try to make their day somehow, doing things with them and for them, and pumping them up so that they are ready to go home. They're excited to see their dog. They're excited to see their cat, to see their neighbor, to be able to walk the driveway and get their strength back. But a good caregiver can bring consistency and relationship building. Seeing the same caregiver regularly, it does build trust. It's like an emotional comfort that they'll find, and maybe a strong sense of security knowing that that person is there for them. And not only that, it allows them to stay in their home. We all want to stay home, right? That's the place that we feel our best. All of our stuff is there, and if somebody can come in and they can keep the house tidy and it smells clean, and we're clean and we're cared for and loved, I don't know. I think this is definitely a pro. Another one is flexible scheduling. You can often customize the hours that you want. So if you want someone just Monday, Wednesday, Friday, those are the days that you have a doctor's appointment, or you want to go here or go there, you sort of start to look forward to that, right? Yes, you can do certain things, but is it nice to have somebody come and do some of the things that are more challenging or pose a fall risk or a safety risk to you, like showering by yourself? Right. So put together a part-time schedule rather than fitting it into an agency's preset shifts. A lot of agencies want you to have at least 20 hours a week, and it's tough for a lot of families. They don't need 4 hours a day. They just need someone for safety checks and make sure that the medications are being taken, that they've had a meal, that there's another meal being made and left there so that they have a lunch or a dinner. So the other thing, hiring a private caregiver, is the potential cost savings. Oh, I know. I started in this industry when we were charging, I think I want to say it was like $18.95 an hour. It is $35 an hour for a private duty nurse to come in. And again, that's a CNA, a certified nursing assistant, with helping with your activities of daily living. It's not a skilled nurse that can do injectables or do any wound care or anything like that. And it's not billed to your health insurance. That is an out-of-pocket cost. So yeah, it has changed. But hiring privately will cost less than an agency because you're not paying for those administrative fees, the insurances that those agencies have to carry on their employees. And also, it's just, I think someone's going to look forward to knowing that they're getting, many times it's under the table, the pay that they're going to get. So if you're paying someone $25 or $30 an hour, or $25 an hour, and they don't have the taxes taken out, that can be a real benefit. And you can find that sometimes people are like very happy to be paid that way. Now, there was a time I would talk people out of that just for a lot of reasons, but I don't anymore because I do see that there's such a high need, and the restrictions and the costs that agencies are having to impose, it's just to cover a lot of their expenses too. So, and also hiring somebody privately gives families more control, right? The families can directly choose who the providers are that work with their loved one and adjust any expectations on any daily schedule or care plan that you want to put together jointly. Definitely have a meeting. Definitely have a meeting when you decide that we like this lady. She seems like she's got her act together. We are definitely going to hire her. Sit down and draft it all out. Ask her what is going to work for you. What does your schedule look like that you can commit to on a regular basis? And really just, you can even sign a agreement of some sort. If you feel like putting something together, I wouldn't be opposed to that at all. Finally, 5 cons that came up, and there could be more, I don't know, but these just came up when I was doing my research, is that it's your responsibility, it's families' responsibilities to become the employer, right? So you're going to handle paying that person. If you're going to 1099 them, covering, making sure that's sent to them, any insurance and following any labor laws that could keep this person compliant. Otherwise, they really are just an under the table employee, right? So, whatever fallout that could hold, which could be that they just never show up again, there's no accountability. They could say one thing and do something else, which leads me to the number two con here, which is there's no backup coverage. It is, I used to say, that is one point of failure. And if that person's car breaks down or they can't get there, you don't have anybody, right? So if that caregiver is sick, they're not available, finding a replacement falls entirely on the family, or the family has to be close enough that they're going to be that backup caregiver. Yeah, so I've seen a lot of family people over the years that are working on their laptop while they're visiting mom's house, and it's just a natural progression of aging is that there has to be people looking after each other, and some employers are fine with it because they're in the same boat. They know exactly what it's like to have a parent that needs you to do a lot of things for them. And it's not a bad thing. I mean, they were there for us, raising us and taking care of us and putting a band-aid on our boo-boos. So it's our time to look after our loved ones, right? Number three, I would say definitely there's screening risks. Without an agency, families must handle all the background checks. We already talked about that. Looking and checking, verifying all references that were given. And then any credential reviews. I would definitely say, are you a licensed CNA? Do you have a med tech license? What state is it in? The other thing is I would suggest that when you do your background check, that you do the entire country, because it's not unheard of. Well, where I lived outside of in Maryland, is that somebody could have had a license in DC and they really weren't licensed in the state of Maryland. So we really had to look at that. If they had a dual license, even better, because they could work in both, because we were neighboring states rather. But yeah, I really think there is something to making sure that these screenings are done properly, because you could find out that maybe they lost their license. So you really want to do those credential reviews and background checks. And also, any boundary challenges like personal relationships can blur those professional lines. So trying not to hire someone that you know. I mean, if you've used them before and they were an employee, because that's really what they're going to become, is a resource to you. But you had bad luck with them, or there was just something about you really don't want them to cross the lines of taking over as the only person, making, difficult conversations really hard down the line. I had every kind of scenario that you can imagine. Yeah, I can't even go into it because some of them were shocking. Honestly, we had a family that we cared for, and the woman had dementia. She said, Marie's just not the same anymore. We couldn't figure out what she was talking about. And well, what it was is that the caregiver actually was sending her sister-in-law in to cover the days that she wasn't there. So it was two different people that were going in. Not cool. They never said anything about it. And of course, that was through an agency. So you do have to be careful. And finally, liability exposure. If you got somebody coming in, the cons are that if they're under the table, that any injuries on your dad's property or your mother's house, could put you in litigious danger, if you ask me. If somebody had a fall or got hurt on your property, they could sue you. Yeah, so you don't want that. Any accidents, any disputes could fall onto the family without proper insurance in place. So these are things that you're going to want to look into. And there are some other agencies, like Care.com is an agency that started out as pet sitting and now they've gone into babysitting and elder caregiving, transportation for kids to and from school by vetted caretakers. So, it's not quite an agency that's going to be overseen by a director of nursing, director of client services, and have a whole team of caregivers. But these online services can be pretty good and way less expensive. So these are just a few of the things that I wanted to go over as far as, what it's like to really hire a private caregiver. It can be challenging, but it also can be done. Plenty of families are doing it on the daily, and have great success with it. So I hope that on this journey for you and your loved ones, that you do find someone that you truly feel a great connection with, and that you get the care for your mom, your dad, yourself that you really truly need. So I hope this was helpful, and I will see you at the next video. Bye.